We are so excited to go in session today with Dr. Glenn and Phyllis. I will say these are some of my favorite episodes to hear from couples what is happening in their home. And today we feel so honored to have friends on the podcast, Petra and Jeff from Alaska, who Dr. Glenn and Phyllis got to connect with while they were there speaking last year. They are going to be talking about how they use food to help. They say they're eating their emotions. Can you relate? Oh my gosh. I think this is such a common thread that so many people experience. And now how they use what they're referring to as the wonder wheel to connect with each other and to overcome that cycle that they have found themselves in. So welcome to the Connection Codes podcast. This is the podcast where we break open our emotions that take us from being disconnected to connected in our relationships and in ourselves. I'm your host, Tara Wages, and joining me is marriage and family therapist, clinical sexologist, Dr. Glenn Hill, and his incredible wife, Phyllis, where together they have founded the Connection Codes, which is the guide to human connection.
Hello, world.
Hi, friends. Well, we are so excited today to have some of our friends from Alaska, Petra and Jeff, and we had so much fun with them last year. They were amazing hosts, and our time was way too short, but oh my goodness, that's one thing I love about Connection Codes, because we only got to spend one night, right? Just one night. And yet I feel like we packed into one night a lifetime worth of friendship. And it was, for me, really life-changing. Jeff, I don't know if you remember this, but we talked about how I'd never done a vision board, how it was just super hard for me to narrow down or to put into words. And then you shared yours with me. And it was just like, oh my goodness, now I feel like I can do this. I don't have to be artsy or, and it just really was such a wonderful connector, being with you guys and getting just to share life. And you guys, of course, took us salmon fishing and such an adventure. So we are so excited to have you guys on the podcast today. So welcome.
Yes.
Well, thank you guys. We're super excited to be here, and we enjoyed that time ourselves. We felt like we had, personal time with Glenn and Phyllis. I mean, that's like, nobody gets that.
And it was our first time fishing that here in the peninsula. So that was fun.
Yeah. Oh, I love that. So, we always love to kind of give y'all a moment just to share who you are and maybe even how you ended up in Alaska, and because you're not natives to Alaska, right?
Right. No, that was a crazy long journey, but we've been in Alaska full time for about 7 years now. And, Petra and I have been married this August. We will have been married 10 years, and crazy journey. I mean, it was a dream of mine to be in Alaska. I grew up, my dad would bring airplanes to Alaska every summer. And so as, a young boy, 8 years old, flying to Alaska with my dad, I was just like, someday I'm going to live there.
Wow.
And it took me a while to get here, but we're here now, and we're really settled in and just love it. And we don't live in a igloo like a lot of people think. It's been interesting, just your podcast lately. You've had a few of us from the Great White North on. So we don't sit in igloos and just do our wheel and and whatever. So I don't know. What do you want to share about?
Well, that was when we were in courtship. Jeff was like, "What do you think of Alaska?" And that's where the rubber hit the road, because I was engaged to a Californian, and so when he asked me about that, I had to inside, okay, can I do it? And so I had to ask God, and I felt like he had extended his heart towards me and said, "Do you believe that the promises of God over your life can come true in Alaska?" And I'm like, yes. And then he said, "Well, then join the adventure, join me on this romance." And I'm like, oh. And I usually am crying when I share this, but it's been a journey. I still feel like we're settling in. We're still finding what our groove is, because it's such a big land and not many people. So we're still having fun and learning, and there's Alaskan natives, and we're still, I feel like, newbies. Yeah, kind of. Yeah.
So anyway, it's been a fun journey.
Yeah. Yeah,
Love that.
we have just really grown to love Alaska. It's a different culture. It's really fascinating to me. And we started saying, because the times we've been there, people will refer to the lower 48, and so we call Alaska the upper one.
Yeah.
I love it.
It really is. It's a whole nother level.
Yeah, people up here, I'll talk about people down there. I'll go, those people down in America,
Yeah.
Well, Jeff, I think you're one of the ones that would refer to next week I have to go outside. Isn't that what you call it? Yeah, you have to go.
You travel outside of Alaska, it's
Yeah,
outside.
it's like go. So it almost sounds like a prison. It's like the inn, and then you get out.
Wow.
Let us out.
But we love it.
Yeah.
I mean, oh my word! Every adventure we've had there has been spectacular.
So tell us about your connection codes journey. How did you come across connection codes?
Now that's a fun story. It seemed like it found us. It was like people we were talking to. We just started hearing about it from some of the circles we run in. It was, you guys had been featured on a podcast. Some people we listened to had done, and Aaron and Jenna Zent, and they had talked about it. And so out of curiosity, I looked it up, and we printed off a wheel. I think we found it online, listened to a couple of podcasts, and then we were kind of poking at it. I mean, we were, we didn't take the deep dive right off, but we were trying it and implementing it and seeing some results from it. And then you guys somehow showed up at our house. And we'd been kind of playing with it for a few months, I would say, at that point. But once you guys had spent a few days with us, and you'd kind of answered questions about how it works and some of the places where we were stuck with it, we kind of at that point took the more of a deep dive, and did the courses online, I've read the book, had listened to the audiobook a few times over and over. And I don't know that we've skipped a day where we haven't processed the wheel as just part of our morning routine, and taken our 4 minutes just as a couple and gone through it. So that's my version.
You did. You totally snuck in. I mean, a pastor that I used to live with when I was single, she recommended you. You were a different podcast. And so it was the thing that got me. I think someone was saying how the biggest thing they gleaned from you was the ooh. And it was a man. Because usually I feel like I evangelize connection codes in a sense, because it's so revolutionized our lives that now I just share it wherever I go. Because I love it. So this man was saying, ooh, that was the biggest takeaway that he had gotten. And it touched my heart, because I like that. I'm a woman. I like the ooh, I like the empathy. And so that touched my heart. Now there's so much more to the connection codes, but I like that. And then when I share about the connection codes, it's often the men that are like, oh, how do you feel about saying that, Jeff? Like the ooh, because it's hard. I don't know why, but guys have this version to that, but I loved it. It touched my heart. So I went to Amazon, Glenn, and bought my case of ooze.
And we were saying before this, it was like all the cool kids were doing it. So it seemed like everybody we knew that, and just kept hearing about it. It was like, well, we need to check this out. So.
We had a good marriage. It's not like there was anything, Jeff's value, when I married him, he had been married, he was a widower, and they had a value every year, building on your marriage, some sort of material. And the year that we discovered connection codes, that was, he said, out of all the years he had done it, that was the best tool. That was the most transformative tool. So we've kind of been just continuing to grow from that, because it touches our lives, touches us individually. And then wherever we go, business, anything, it just evolves.
Yeah.
Wow.
I mean, not to bash anybody else's deal or whatever, because I mean, we've gotten a lot of great tools, from going to marriage
Yeah.
seminars and retreats and all that stuff and reading books. But it's funny. I look back and like connection codes. I mean, we spend 4 minutes as a couple doing this every morning. We've gone and prior to that, I'd say one of the tools we got, and I won't mention the name, but it was a hugely popular marriage retreat, and you actually write it out. I mean, you write a flipping book on like how I feel and what I'm doing, and then you hand it to the person and they read it, and then they write you a book. And it's like, I remember like thinking, this kind of works, because I am opening myself up and I am processing these things with my wife, and and there's not an argument, there's not hurt, but it's like, what person in the world is going to do this? I mean, this is huge commitment to, and I hate writing. I hate taking tons of time, and this just is so effective and and gets right to the core.
Right.
And I was processing that earlier. I mean, I've been in a men's group and actually led men's group for 10 years. And I mean, we use words like authenticity and to be real and to be honest and to really go deep. But we're using words like, I'm depressed, I feel anxiety. There are all these buzzwords out there that really don't cut to the core of what the emotion is. And so, I mean, we were in a process in our life where we were really trying, to get there. And we want to be authentic. We want to be real with each other. We want to open up and allow each other to see, but we just don't know how. And as I talk to people, I think that's the struggle out there. Is it's like, I think it's in any relationship, not just even in the marriage arena, but it's like, I want to hear your heart and I want you to hear my heart. Yeah. And if we can do that, we're going to connect. Right. And I don't care if you're a Democrat and I'm a Republican, or you're a Christian and I'm not if I hear your heart and you hear my heart, and we've got it. And I think that's the great battle in marriage. Is I think people are getting divorced right and left just because they're missing it, every day. And they finally get to the place where they're just frustrated.
Yeah.
And I felt that, like, is this just, do I have to figure out how to cope with this? We're missing it kind of a thing. And the issues that we did have in our marriage were just simply that. We were just, I wasn't hearing her heart and she wasn't hearing my heart. And it wasn't because she was from Venus and I was from Mars or anything. Yeah, maybe something. But, it was just our inability to put our finger on what those emotions were going on inside of us, and being able to communicate that with each other.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah. And the power of the connection codes is the simplicity of all this, the implementability of it. You don't have to go learn a foreign language. And, we always say we are the founders, the discoverers of the connection codes. We did not invent this. We did not create it. We're faith-based. We believe that it just reflects the genius, the design of God. If there is no God, it's evolutionary. It's still the human condition. And that's the power of it. Jeff doesn't have to go learn Latin before he can connect with Petra. He just needs to be able to be present with her authentically, and then to hear her authentically. And humans can virtually, I mean, we basically can't help ourselves whenever we see. This is the reason people connect with babies so well, because the baby is always authentic. So you walk in the room, the baby is letting you know. They never hesitate to let you know, this is what is happening with me. And the 3 phrases, we do that with babies automatically. We go, oh, buddy, what's happening for you? And we don't necessarily say I'm missing, but that's what we're trying to find out is, what am I missing with you? Oh, you need your diaper changed. Oh, you're hungry. Oh, whatever. It's something happened for you. And that's all. And there's no birthday where that changes. Well, now you're 2, now you're 5, now you're 8. So shut up. We don't want to hear about your needs anymore. And so for this kid that had a whole bunch more birthdays, I just need her to be able to be present with me, and I need to be able to convey authentically at the core. So, wow, that's so powerful. Yeah. I love it.
So good. I love for you to kind of dive into maybe specifically and more currently how connection codes plays out in your life, like how you've mentioned doing the 4-minute tool, which
Mhm.
I love that. We often say to people, immerse yourself in this and you will see the results. And you can't just put your little toe in the water, right? You really need to immerse yourself to get it. And doing the wheel every day is one of them. You mentioned doing the master classes and reading the book multiple times, different ways, and then listening to the podcast. And, we are so thankful and even proud that we have now got these many things to offer. Not too many years ago, we didn't have that. We didn't have these options that people could really immerse themselves.
Yep.
And so there's so many ways to get that. And I love that about your story. But in just everyday life, how does this make a difference for you guys?
Well, I love, Glenn, you just said that about like what's happening here. I don't know why, but why is a big MO inside my head. Why is that? Maybe it's hypervigilance or whatever. So when I replace why with the tenses of the word happen, what did happen, what is happening, or what needs to happen. I love, following the energy and going in that has changed. That has just changed the approach. What do you think?
Well, I think first of all, there's so many directions I could go. It's just, I think my heart is being around, leading men's group and you hear about their lives. And, when you're in a situation where you're sitting in a circle with a bunch of guys and it's like, okay, here's your 7 minutes to totally be real. What's going on this week? It's usually down to, I'm struggling with some issue, and it's always, if they're married, about marriage. And, and then kids come into there. It's all these relational things. And, and a lot of times, people get to that place of, they're going to separate. They're done. They're going to throw in the towel. And I always go like, what happened? What's going on? Because I thought you guys, what's the big issue? And I always hear the same thing. Like, I've tried everything. We've done everything, but, and it just didn't work. And it's like, I would love to see their credit card statement and their checkbook as to how much they've invested in their marriage over the last few, and some people do, but I just want to encourage people, like, man, give this a try. Like, this wasn't our last ditch effort. I have said 1,000 times, I've got the best marriage on the planet. We're having the greatest sex in the world. Like, this is fantastic, but you don't know what you don't know. And so we did have those times where we'd get in an argument, we would hurt each other. We would, we'd walk away and both be in pain. I remember, we've kind of built our life into a place where we spend 24/7 together with work and business and everything. We just always, like, if you want me to come do something for you, it includes the both of us, and or I don't want to do it. But I was getting to the point, like, do I need to just get up in the morning and go to work every day so we have a break from each other? Which kind of breaks my heart to think that, I love this woman. I want to spend my days with her. And like, what an amazing change this has made in our relationship. I look back now and we haven't been doing this forever. Maybe it's been a year. I'm not even sure the timeline on everything, but we just don't have those situations anymore. It's not like, life is never perfect. You're always going to be able to come up with the, fear and anger and shame and sadness and all those things. Those are just part of day-to-day life. But wow, that ability to communicate that and not hurt each other in the process has just been fantastic. And then the other thing is, wow, I've really grown into who I am through this. I didn't know who I was, when I had a little bit of pre-connection codes going into men's group, because it was the first time I'd sat in with a bunch of guys and they're like, okay, we're going to be totally real. And I'm like, I don't know. I'm a Christian guy. We don't do that. We're like professional liars. We show up every day and say, yeah, we're great. Life's awesome. And, but even in that, it didn't like direct me into any direction on, going deep into the core emotions of my life until, I met you guys and we started doing this. And so in doing that process every day, after months of doing it, I started realizing, I mean, Petra and I are doing great in our marriage. I started realizing like every time I get to shame and guilt and fear and sad, it had to do with food. It had to do with, you know what? I've been working and struggling with trying to like lose some weight and do different, programs and stuff to do that. But I was just like failing at it. And I realized as I'm saying this day after day after day after day, those are the things that are foremost. It's like, you know what I've been like I eat my emotions,
Yeah.
I not consciously, I don't say, oh, I'm feeling fear, so I'm going to go, have a brownie. But as I started to get present with what was going on there, man, it's just like a billboard in my life. I mean, I even felt it the other day. I was doing a business deal and I'm driving home and for a couple of months, we've been on this thing where I'll just say we're on a diet, so it makes sense to everybody out there. So we're on this diet. I'm kind of controlling what I eat. And it's just like, I am feeling, I'm feeling sad. I'm feeling angry. I'm feeling about this situation. And I'm like, man, I want to go to Starbucks and I want their tallest thing that's full of sugar and I want it right now. And I want, and you think, what's the big deal? You want a cup of coffee, you want a mocha, so what? But the core, the deep down emotion is I'm feeling this and I want to go do something to medicate. And that's what I've realized. Like I have medicated my whole life, like in all kinds of stuff.
Yeah.
And this just taking these few minutes every day and processing, man, it's almost like the light bulb's gone on to like see how powerful this is. And I've told Petra several times, I mean, the last few months of doing this, we'll call it diet, like I said, I don't know where I'd be right now if we weren't, where I wasn't processing every day and doing them. I think it would have just been probably another failed attempt. Yeah. And so I'm just blown away. I mean, we talk about connection codes, and I know you guys have covered this, but for me, I processed it as this has to do with Petra and I in our marriage. But I didn't realize, like, no, it doesn't. This has to do with our kids. This has to do with our grandkids. This has to do with the diet in my life. This has to do with my relationship with God. This has to do with, the clients that I have, that I work with in my company. This is like all inclusive, in our life. And it's just made me a completely different person. I'm so aware. I mean, it's really changed our life, guys. I mean, we're making decisions now that I wouldn't have made a year ago, because I realized, you know what? I'm feeling this, and this, and this. So I'm not going to go take that contract. I'm not going to sign the deal with these guys because this is how I'm feeling. And I never would have done that. It was all just, does it make money? Does it not make money? Blah, blah. And wow, it's like a whole different life.
Yeah. Connection codes protocol is just when our limbic systems are flooded, when we're flooded with emotion, we're just dumber versions of ourselves. And I just think back through my life. I'm like, how many dumb things did I do? Not because I'm a dumb person. I'm just human and my limbic system's flooded and I would make idiotic. I mean, there's so many things really. I look back in my life. I'm like, how in the world did I come up with that decision? How did I make that choice? Dang it, I'm smarter than that. Well, yeah, unless my limbic system is flooded. And when I have unprocessed emotion, I'm operating at a lower and lower and lower capacity percentage of myself. And so then I end up doing something dumb, which made perfect sense to me in the moment. And nobody plans. I've never met the 10-year-old that says, my dream is to grow up and weigh 590 pounds and not be able to walk. I don't think that human exists. So this happens little at a time, incremental. And I don't know what episode it is, but the popcorn story. I have not had movie popcorn, and I don't. It's been a year and a half now. I don't
Yeah,
know,
at least.
long time, and that just stuns me because I didn't plan to do it. It wasn't like I just was biting down on a stick. It's like no more movie popcorn. I processed the joy that I felt about it, and it just went away. And I'm not saying that works for everybody every time at all, but I'm startled by that. And I think, Jeff, you're exactly right that, as far as you eating your emotions, once you process the emotion, then you're a smarter version of yourself and you can do the next right thing. When the emotions flooding us, we make really bad choices and end up doing things. It's like, oh crap, how did I end up? Because I kid you not, I could eat 3 or 4 buckets of popcorn. That is so bad. And then I'd feel like death for 2 days afterwards. And I did that for decades. I mean, again, I didn't do this 3 times. I did this for decades, and it was just part of my modus operandi. And I think, good grief, how many unhealthy calories of movie popcorn did I eat over the decades? And I haven't done it since. And I could. It's not. I didn't make some vow.
Yeah.
I could. I just don't, and I have no interest in it.
Well, it's interesting just on that note because I realized that often, the misunderstanding, the miseducation of emotion. We think joy is the only acceptable emotion. And for many of us, we associate food as joy. And so, we go to the fridge or the pantry, we open, and the joy of the chocolate or, the brownie, it takes us down the road of, well, I feel so much joy about making some brownies. So we make the brownies and the joy is, the smell and all, it's just this flooding of joy. And then we eat and we keep eating. And before we know it, we've eaten half the pan of brownies. And then it's like, that's when the shame, the guilt comes flooding in.
And then you eat the other half of the
well, maybe, but it's like I think that often it's that unprocessed joy. We think joy is okay, and so we don't realize that we have to process joy as well. Because in processing the joy, we in that moment can go, yeah, I feel tons of joy about that brownie, but I also know where it will lead me if I eat all of that. And so it's it's just a crazy thing when you realize it's not just because I think what you were kind of sharing was that, there was maybe some sadness or some anger or something. And so you're like, I just want to stop at Starbucks. And I just want to get a big old Frappuccino, a venti Frappuccino. And it's like, well, get that. That's definitely I feel sad. So I want to medicate that with, something that brings me joy, which is the thing. But that thing then leads me down the road of unhealth. And then I feel guilt and shame about that. And it's kind of this, this roller coaster that we can be on. But it almost starts with, for many of us, actually processing the joy. Because we kind of go, well, that's the one thing I'm allowed. That's the one emotion I'm allowed is joy. So what brings me joy? I'm going after that. And that's when we can make really bad decisions. So yeah, it's amazing when you think about how we've got to tune in, right? We have to tune in to how our brain is firing. So that's so great, Jeff. Thank you for sharing that with you guys, being 10 years almost in. So did you say August? Is that when you're, all right, we're getting close. And what would you say right now in this season is where you disconnect and where you kind of lose each other in this moment?
Well, we were just talking about how we're getting better at this, but if one of us has a heightened emotion, so if I say, oh, I feel sad, and so he'll say, I feel sad too. It's like, hey, I said it first. So, one of us, just give it and take is like, okay, there's a heightened emotion. We're both feeling it. It's less and less, but it happens.
Sure.
And, I will say the disconnect, well, there's less of that now too, is when there'd be anger. And I think it was more secondary degree, where realizing it's actually sadness or something else. And so you ride up the anger and recognize, okay, what's really happening? Like, what am I missing?
Yeah.
Again, with this, like right now, seriously, we've been on this roll that it's been an amazing coming around. Like in the beginning, Phyllis, I was like, I didn't even want to admit to you we were doing connection codes because I thought we were so bad at it. Because you know what I mean? So we were because we kept missing the energy, we kept missing, you know, the heightened emotion. And I think one of the things recognizing is allowing I didn't want to share my emotion. I know, I mean, I'm a woman, I like to share it, but it was almost like the shame. I think sometimes shame disqualifies because is this really necessary? Am I important enough to share it? So I think I have to own it so that he can love me in it. And so that would be a disconnecting part. I don't know if is there anything recently that
it feels like marriage seems so good right now. It's hard to come up with. We're struggling here or there, but I think for me, it's just coming back to like, I don't even know how to explain it, but it's like connecting the dots. Like I've been doing this thing over and over and over again. And it's like this aha moment that, gosh, that's just, you know, emotion. And when we were having problems before, it was like one of the podcasts you guys did a while back, it was like the cyclone, you know, and so we're not effectively communicating this. So this stuff is just build. So, you know, I mean, we're arguing and over church and over, you know, just whatever. I mean, something out in left field. But I think when I look back on it now, it was really just, you know, you haven't been heard, and that stuff just builds to the point that it's going to pop out somewhere. And I feel like we're doing a really good job right now. Just, I mean, this, like, I don't think we've missed a day in months where we haven't done this. I mean, we start out and we process this together every day, no matter what, just to start our day. That's just kind of our schedule, you know. It's like we're not going to miss a cup of coffee, and we're not going to miss, you know, doing the connection codes. We call it the Wonder Wheel. So
love that.
Love it, yeah.
have you seen the movie The Toy with Richard Pryor? And he talks about the Wonder Wheel. You guys will have to watch that. You're movie people. But anyway, you know, so we do that every day, and then the wheels might come out again at different times based on, you know, if we start going down that road. I think we've gotten pretty good where we say, hey, let's process this, you know, and let's grab and go through it. And it's just amazing. Then it just goes away and you're done. And, you know, and you've said it a million times. I mean, that 1 hour discussion is now a 4-minute dialogue. Good. Where we would have the 1 hour discussion and then walk away both in total pain, totally disconnected, hurt. And, you know, and I'm thinking, okay, I got to humble myself. I need to apologize. I need to go, you know, and I'm not feeling that at all. I mean, it's ticking me off that I'm having to even do it, but I want a marriage with this woman. So I guess that's what I got to do. This is just so, I mean, it's so beautiful to just, you know, feel like, wow, this was a real healing thing for both of us, and feel honestly good about it.
I will share where I missed it. I mean, I learned very quickly. I wanted to fix, it was hard not to fix like what Jeff was sharing. And I mean, I've shared it with you guys, Glenn, when we were together fishing and you were doing the wheel and you mentioned how you felt hurt because it was really cold outside. And we were in a boat that had a heater. So I interrupt Glenn while he's sharing on the wheel, hadn't processed it. And I'm like, oh, to the guy that was sharing that was leading us, fishing guide. I'm like, could you move the heater closer to Glenn? And then all of a sudden, Glenn, who's amazing, lighthearted, sweet, tenderhearted, what are you doing? You do not interrupt the wheel while you start that. I'm like, oh, but you're so loving that it was like justified, hugest learning lesson that I had about the code, because I didn't realize, oh, maybe I do want to fix, and that's not good. So that's been my epiphany. It's like, okay, I can be angry and that doesn't make my husband bad, and he can be sad and I don't have to be mad. It's like just unhooking from that, it's like the trigger that keeps on going. And it's not about fixing, it's just about being, it's just resting in that. So that's been amazing.
Yeah, and what an incredible,
so
and I
good.
remember that, Petra, when that happened, because, and I'm just a pilgrim on the journey too, I need to be able to say, hey, could you move the heater closer to me? And if Petra, from a beautiful heart, great intention, wonderful motivation, exercises that muscle for me, well, then my muscle is still atrophied, and I don't have the voice, I don't have the muscle to ask for what I need. And so, and we do this again all the time out of good heart, good intention, and we actually are helping the other person's muscle to atrophy, and they're weaker because they don't learn to. And we're all born with the ability to ask for what we need. We all do. I mean, 6-month-old, 12-month-old, 18-month-old, no baby hesitates to say, hey, I don't care if it's freaking 3:00 in the morning. I have a need. Somebody respond to me. I need help here. Well, at some point along the way, we get reprogrammed, and then we just either forget or stop or something conveying need. Well, that's the human condition, is meeting needs, and most of us we don't have a voice and haven't had in forever. One of the things, because you mentioned it several times, Jeff, I just think it's so powerful. And again, if it's something that benefits people, I'm happy for them. But for you to sit down and write out paragraphs, pages, of your emotions with Petra, it's not that that's wrong or bad, but that's not the human condition. We don't say to a 12-month-old, write us a letter once a week about what's happening for you and what you need. Nobody does that. The baby is expected. It's just understood. We don't even have a talk with them about it. They automatically, in the moment, when it happens, as soon as it happens, every time it happens, lets you know what's happening for them. Well, there's no birthday where that changes. We don't say, happy birthday, Jeff, you're 8. Just shut up from now. We don't want to, we'll check in with you once a month, and you can write us a letter about what your experiences were, what your emotions were, what your needs were. That's not human. We're supposed to do this in the moment as it happens. And I just think that's so powerful. Just the way you share that is just really, really good.
Wow. I was thinking just about what you were saying with Petra, with just that idea that I think so many people miss with doing the wheel is just that. And in all of this, it's like you share something and that doesn't put it on Jeff to have to fix it, or Jeff to be responsible for it, or Jeff to apologize for it. It's like just the idea of being present with each other. And I don't know how to better teach that. I feel like people constantly come back to even emails we get where people will say, well, when is the time where I can correct, or whatever. And it's like we miss the importance of just being able to be in each other's presence, where I can hear your pain and not feel that it's my fault, or that I have to fix it, or I have to change something about me. It's just being able to hear each other and follow the energy in that, like make space for it. I even wrote down what you said. This is not about fixing, it's just about being. Like, I love that. And that I think about how far you guys have come in just a year, and it is because you have immersed yourself in it. And I love that too. I wrote that down, that you, just like you don't miss a morning coffee, you don't miss doing the wheel. And, and I think about, it's funny, I had a friend over yesterday, and she came a little bit later in the day, but I said, do you want a cup of coffee? She said, no, I'm trying to cut back, and I've already had mine this morning. But it's like we, for, I don't know, 4 minutes talked about coffee, like whether to drink coffee or not to drink coffee, or, is it good for us or is it not? And, kind of that trying to minimize or trying to not, but we do have coffee every morning. Right. And so I love that imagery, even to think about, maybe we need to do a little magnet where it says,
Right.
you know, as you don't miss your coffee, you don't miss the
Mm.
wheel, the Wonder Wheel. I love, you know, it's like sometimes people go, oh, I forget. Oh, yeah, I
Mm.
don't know why, but I can't seem to get around to doing the wheel.
Mm.
And it's like, man, until you get that down, it's like you're missing the
Mm.
you're missing what you guys are getting to live,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
It's like this only putting your toe in, where you guys are like, yeah, we start our day this way with a cup of coffee, we do the wheel, and then during the day, if something comes up, we do the wheel. And it's just amazing, you know, to us just to hear you guys. And I just wanted to point that out. It's not like you've been doing it for 10 years,
Mm.
you know, and so that you had a marriage prior to Connection Codes, right? Where you had other habits and other ways that you hurt each other, didn't really know how to necessarily resolve conflict. And now you have this new way, right? The language, the new tools, and you're going, oh my word, we are staying connected. We don't disconnect. We may miss it every once in a while, but we know how to get back to the center of it. And that is so powerful. And we just appreciate you guys so much being willing to be transparent and vulnerable on our podcast. We always love having friends. And as you know, we always end each episode with doing the wheel. So would you guys be willing to do the wheel today?
Sure.
Wow, love it.
Any particular?
No,
Yeah.
any way you want to go with it.
Yeah.
All right, we'll go ahead.
Wait, before I go, that's merch. Put your emotion, the wheel, on a coffee cup, Phyllis.
Oh, there you go. You gotta have that coffee. And you'll be doing the wheel at the same time.
Yes.
Yeah.
And I will do it. You can cut this out if you want. I have friends that don't do it because their husband doesn't want to. And there's so many reasons. I just want to say it's okay to do it just for yourself. And
Yes, love that.
I mean, as a matter of fact, it starts with yourself, whether it's in your, I love doing it. I have done it. I'm doing it less. I'm more living it with God, but I've done it in my quiet time with God, where he cares. You know, the reason why Jeff doesn't have to apologize to me because of some emotion I'm feeling is like, I'm cared by him. I feel this care. And then when I read the word, I feel his care, and I feel when he's angry, because when you share your emotions, you can actually feel other people's emotions more. So I feel his, he feels mine, and there's this like relationship, and it's a great way to surrender too. So I love that. But for the single person, I mean, I've shared this with you as well. The time I received a text from a friend, and I first thought was anger. And because it was a conversation, really, I don't think it should have been on text. And I was about to get angry. And then I realized, I sat down and I was like, oh, sad. I'm just sad that this is what I received after years of friendship. And you know, we worked it out. But anyways, so I just needed to share that because it's so alive in our hearts. We love it. So the wheel. So a little bit of shame, I think, from feeling like, you know, who wants to hear me? Like, oh my goodness, like, so I feel a bit of that, feel sad. It's raining outside, and anger about that. There's a scheduling difficulty. I was supposed to go kayaking with a friend, so I feel guilt. I had to reschedule with her. We had to do a trip yesterday, and now it's raining today. Lonely. We want couples around us. Alaska is so big and so vast, and you know, to share in the connection codes and interests. Hurt. I felt my knee, some pain earlier. Fear to communicate well. I'm exuberant. I'm excited, but then I can steamroll too because I'm like, ah! So a bit of fear. And then the biggest joy was, out of all of this in our time together, Phyllis and Glenn, like to be with you, spend time with you. And then, oh yeah, we're recording a podcast. So joy for this moment, joy being here with you.
Wow.
Wow. Amazing.
So you know what? I'm going to do it around food. Just something.
Wow.
So, I felt angry yesterday. Just some work that I was involved in just caused our schedule to totally change. We were out of town, and So what we thought, we'd be home at a certain time and be able to stay on a kind of a food plan got totally messed up. And so we ended up just skipping dinner altogether. And so I was just kind of angry that just a series of events ended up that way. Shame. I feel some shame that it, like it was my fault, my scheduling issues that kind of got us in that situation. Guilt. I feel guilt like a lot of times, like I could do more, and fear that, will this work? Will it last? Is this something, yeah, I mean, the last couple of months have been fantastic, but what's it going to be like a year from now? Are we going to stay on this, and lonely. I wished that that there was like a group of other people that were like on the same page, like other couples that were, we could be running with, in this area on this diet journey that we're on, and with the connection codes and all that. And I would say we have a lot of friends that are doing it and stuff. So it is there, but sad that I didn't do this sooner. Wished I would have been doing this a long time ago, and I would have been a lot farther on this weight loss journey kind of thing that I'm on right now. Hurt, feel a little bit of like I've got a cold coming on or allergies or something today, just a little bit uncomfortable. Joy, wow, I mean, the joy is just to be able to process, in this journey, to be able to connect the dots, like I'm feeling this. That's why I'm doing that. I mean, that is, man, I mean, that's like, I just feel like, I'm 90% of the way there just because of that. Feeling my body change and watching the scale move, and there's excitement and there's joy in seeing that. And so
wow,
gracious, you too.
that's amazing.
Yeah,
Wow, we thank you guys so much. And as we always say,
you need this,
you deserve this,
so
let's do this.
Yeah.
Wow, I can relate to so much of what they said, from eating their emotions. Oh, I've done that so many times, to just creating space for each other and not trying to fix the problem, if you see it as a problem that's in front of you, but just creating that space. And if you're listening, you're like, whew, that is me, and I need the tools to help get me to the other side of that. We have created a masterclass that will do that very thing, and it's called our Foundations Masterclass. You can find the link in the show notes and use the code podcast for 20% off. This course will transform not only your relationships, but how you are showing up in the world. It is so, so powerful. As always, thank you so much for being here. If you have not already given us a 5-star review, whether you're listening on Spotify or Anchor, or if you have not subscribed to our YouTube channel, please go ahead and hit whatever button on the platform you are on right now to help support our podcast. This is the best way to help us continue to grow and get the word out about the work that we are doing. As always, thank you so, so much for being here. Let's do this.